The moment Ethan Cole stepped onto the cracked concrete of the old police training yard, the world he could no longer see seemed to inhale sharply, as if holding its breath for what was about to happen, because everyone there knew this was a meeting that should never have been allowed. A blind former officer standing alone before the most dangerous retired police dog in the state. A dog with a history of violent takedowns, scars earned in blood, and a reputation that made grown men step back. Yet Ethan stood still, his white cane resting against his leg, his posture straight, his face calm but worn by years of loss, as if he had already survived the worst life could do to him and was no longer afraid of what came next. If stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected miracles matter to you, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to the channel, and comment below telling us where you're watching from, because this story is about to remind you why the human heart is stronger than fear. Ethan had once been one of the sharpest officers on the force, known for his instincts, his quiet patience, and the way he trusted his canine partner more than words, until the night everything went dark, both literally and figuratively, when a routine call turned into an ambush, an explosion of noise and heat, and then nothing but silence and darkness that never lifted again. The doctors told him he was lucky to be alive, but luck felt like a cruel joke when he woke up blind, stripped of his badge, his uniform folded away like a memory no one wanted to talk about, and his future reduced to careful steps and well-meaning pity. The hardest part was not learning how to navigate a world without sight, but learning how to exist without purpose, without the job that had defined him, without the partner who had once been his shadow. That partner had been Rex, a Belgian Malinois trained for high-risk apprehensions, a dog whose presence alone could end a standoff, whose speed and focus were legendary, but after Ethan's injury and forced retirement, Rex had been reassigned, then eventually retired himself, deemed too aggressive for family placement and too unpredictable for public work. Rumors spread through the department about Rex biting handlers, refusing commands, becoming dangerous without Ethan, until finally the dog was isolated, locked away at a private facility, labeled a liability instead of a hero. Ethan heard those rumors through hushed conversations and awkward silences, each word cutting deeper than the last, because in his heart he knew the truth, that Rex had not turned aggressive, he had turned lost. Years passed, slow and heavy, until Ethan learned about a controversial rehabilitation program testing whether high-risk retired K9s could be reassigned as therapy or support animals under extreme supervision, and despite every warning, despite the protests from former colleagues and administrators, Ethan requested one meeting with Rex. He was told it was reckless, irresponsible, even suicidal, a blind man with a dog known for violence, but Ethan insisted, not out of bravery, but out of a quiet certainty that some bonds do not disappear just because the world decides they should. The yard was silent now except for the distant hum of traffic and the subtle movements of the handlers standing tensely at the edges, weapons ready, hearts pounding, as Rex was led in on a reinforced harness. The dog's presence was immediate and overwhelming, heavy paws on concrete, controlled power coiled beneath his fur, his breathing low and measured, a predator aware of every sound, every shift in the air. Ethan could not see any of it, but he felt it all, the weight of the moment pressing against his chest, the faint vibration of Rex's steps traveling through the ground, the smell of earth and metal and something familiar that made his throat tighten. At first, Rex resisted, muscles rigid, body angled away, his reputation hanging over him like a storm cloud, and the handlers tightened their grip, expecting the worst, expecting the sudden lunge everyone feared, but instead something strange happened, something no one could explain. Rex stopped pulling, his breathing changed, the tension in his body softened, just slightly, as if he had reached the edge of a memory he did not know how to cross. Ethan stood still, his hands relaxed at his sides, not reaching, not commanding, simply existing in the same space, trusting the bond he could no longer see but had never stopped believing in. Minutes passed like hours, the air thick with anticipation, until Rex took a cautious step forward, then another, each movement slow, deliberate, controlled, the handlers frozen in disbelief as the dog closed the distance no one thought he would cross. When Rex reached Ethan, instead of aggression, instead of fear, he did something that stunned everyone watching. He sat, perfectly, calmly, the way he used to at the end of a long shift, waiting for praise that never came in words but lived in presence alone. From that moment, the yard seemed to exhale, but the real shock was yet to come, because Rex did not stop there. He leaned forward, pressing his head gently against Ethan's leg, grounding himself, offering not dominance but trust, a gesture so tender it shattered the image of the dangerous animal everyone had built in their minds. Ethan's breath caught, his hand trembling as it moved instinctively, fingers brushing familiar fur, and though he said nothing, though no words were spoken, the connection was undeniable, a silent reunion that rewrote everything people thought they knew about loss and healing. The program's supervisors watched closely over the following weeks as Rex and Ethan were allowed supervised time together, and again Rex defied expectations, guiding Ethan around obstacles, stopping him at curbs, positioning his body protectively in crowded spaces, responding not to commands spoken aloud but to subtle shifts in Ethan's posture and breathing, as if he had always known his purpose was not just to protect, but to understand. Evaluations were rewritten, risk assessments torn up, because the most dangerous retired police dog in the state was demonstrating an emotional intelligence and restraint no one could deny. Ethan, for the first time since losing his sight, felt whole again, not because his life returned to what it was, but because it evolved into something deeper. Rex became his eyes in a world that had once gone dark, but more than that, he became his reason to step forward without fear, to trust again, to believe that broken things are not useless, they are simply waiting to be understood. The public reaction was overwhelming when footage of their sessions surfaced, comments flooding in from people who saw their own pain reflected in the story of a blind officer and a dog everyone had given up on, reminding them that healing does not always look gentle at first glance. As time passed, Rex was officially reassigned as Ethan's full-time support and mobility partner, a historic decision that changed department policy and challenged long-held beliefs about aggression, trauma, and redemption. Together they visited schools, rehabilitation centers, and police academies, not as symbols of tragedy, but as living proof that strength and softness can coexist, that the most feared beings often carry the deepest loyalty, and that sometimes the ones labeled too dangerous are simply the ones who loved too deeply and lost too much. Just before the end of this story, take a moment to comment below and share what this journey made you feel, whether it reminded you of someone you lost, a bond you thought was broken, or a second chance you are still hoping for. And if this story touched your heart, if it made you pause and feel something real, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like Ethan and Rex's deserve to be heard, remembered, and carried forward, reminding us all that even in darkness, loyalty can still lead the way.